Warning: this show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewers' discretion is advised. This show may contain strong language and sensitive or controversial topics. We are not attorneys and are not providing legal advice. The views and conversations are our own thoughts and feelings, and therefore, purely speculation.
The entertainment world and beyond.
Skywalker air miles, feeding on a surface, gliding on water, constricted and conflicted.
Welcome to Purely Speculation, a show that exposes the harmful effects of the criminal legal system. I'm your host, Heather Lewis, the Executive Director of the Reuniting Family Bail Fund and practitioner of participatory defense. On this show, you'll learn about the unspoken horrors of the criminal justice system and meet fierce allies and advocates. We will make the best of our traumatic experiences. We will get angry. We may even cry. We most certainly going to laugh, but one thing's for sure, we're going to keep it real. Welcome to Purely Speculation.
When I free my sins and let them loose, they was killing me, I got a scar to prove, got me paralyzed, I could even barely move. Out the way I took the pain again.
Hey, y'all. Welcome. Season 3, episode 11. This is the last episode of season 3 of Purely Speculation. We film live through to 11 months out of the year. And so November is our last one. And couldn't think of having a final episode for season 3 at the end of this 2025. Without this special guest. So Norristown is 3.5 square miles, and the population was around 38,126 people in 1950. And so I bring that statistic to light because our guest was born in 1950. So I just wanted to put a little context to the size of Norristown, which was actually the population according to the census of 2024, is actually about 36,000 people. And so it has gone down slightly, but I don't believe that. So anyway, I want to bring on our guest. You know what I mean? Let me say that Norristown being 3.5 square miles, I don't think was a big enough town for this individual that I want to bring on, who is my friend, my dear friend, vice president and ride or die, somebody that's, down for my shenanigans, whatever they are. And it's none other than the one and only incomparable Norristown's own Scotty Tags. Mr. Tags. I know you're like, what the hell? Where is she going? Where is she going with this? With this?
Oh, welcome.
Of course. I mean, what better way to end season 3 with a person that's larger than life? You know what I'm saying? In all ways. And like I said, I don't think Norristown was ever big enough for you. And so, you know how we start our shows with our origin story, right? And so we were talking earlier, and we started talking about the population size. And you said, of course, and proudly, Norristown, born and raised, right? So take us back to 1950. You're about to have a birthday, January 3rd, 1950. Tell us your early remembrance of childhood. What do you say, in the holla?
First of all, though, I'd like to say Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans, and
Yes.
we'd love to thank you for your service. It was
And
great.
your sacrifice. I've been adding that.
Still is appreciated, and
Absolutely.
all we do with our legions and VFWs all across the world. So we thank you for your service.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yeah, my brother, Dr. Jennifer, just wrote a book about the house. So that, refreshes our mind, his and mine, about where we grew up, where we were born, where we grew up, and the surroundings that we endured on our childhood.
Right.
The hollow is dead end.
Before you go on, so because I'm not from Norristown, and I would not have known this unless you told me, and you did, and I'm like, oh wow. So, and I'm sure there's a lot of young people that are from Norristown and don't know and didn't know about the holler and where it was. So please, like, give us paint a picture for us where it was.
The hollow is where now Simmons Park is. It was one way in, one way out. As you call it now, you Richie folks cul-de-sac. We were the first cul-de-sac in Norristown.
Okay.
It was a town. It was a town encased in a town. We had everything we needed down there. We lived in rat-shaped houses, but we were our own community.
You had fire, police, and all that, right?
Did a little bit of everything. In fact, the police never came in there unless they were allowed to come in there. Our folks made do. There was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, like 14 houses that were encased in the hollow. And we took care of each other down there. There was no place you couldn't eat. There was no place you couldn't sleep. I mean, everything that was going on was going on down in the holler.
Right. Were those families in those houses, were you all related?
No. Well, we were related. That's where, as a young folk, when you see people and you say, hey, family, what's up? That's because we were raised as family. The mother took care of everybody's kids. Most of the people, men worked at either Allenwood Steel or Phoenix Steel, retired. And a lot of them, like my grandfather and Mr. Blockson and Mr. Davis, they had their own business. They did carpentry work, plumber work. My grandfather and then did plaster brick work. So they were pretty much their own boss. But those who didn't have a skill worked at the steel mills and the tire plants and whatnot, and a place called which was a stock place. But we were all what you call family because we all looked out for each other. We all played together. There was a creek that ran around the holler, and that was our playground. That was the best place.
How did you get the name?
Pardon me?
How did it get the name? How did it be called the holler? Like, is that a thing?
He used to call my grandfather Mr. Blue Jim.
Right.
And he used to tell people it was Chestnut Street and Arch Street were the entrance to the holler. He used to tell people, if you want me, come to the corner and holler. So that's how people got, because people wouldn't come in because it was, we were labeled, hey, dead end kids. It's always something. Guys were gambling and all different things down there. So not a lot of people would come in there. It's not a place that a lot of people would come in.
Right.
Arch Street up to DeKalb Street. A lot of people on the other side of DeKalb Street wouldn't cross over DeKalb Street. It's just not come down in there because they didn't know what to expect. But we were raised there, so everything was good. And like I said, everybody took care of it.
So Norristown, I know, as a transplant, I've been here 25 years. I know there's the East End and the West End. It's segregated in this, but not only that, but there were, I guess, certain family names, right, that were kind of prominent or big enough or whatever you want to call it, right, that kind of, made up Norristown. So what families were from the holler? Your family.
We had the Wiley family, we had the Davis family, we had the Scott, we had the
You're going in and out.
Cobras.
We're missing every other. We getting every other name.
Oh, all right. We had the Williams family. We had the White family. We had Scott and the Smith family. We had the Janitor family. We had the Browns. We had the Paynes and the Cobra family. And Mr. Geneva was a product of a black mother and a white father, and their last name was Geneva. And Mr. Geneva, the older man, his family pretty much owned most of the homes that we lived in the house.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we had outhouses, wood stoves, cane ashes, whatnot. But those were what I call our family as far as the Hollow was concerned.
Right.
And we all grew up together. We went to school together. Like I said, you ate together. There was times on weekends, it was like a barbecue down there. Everybody cooked something and everybody had something to eat. Yeah, when clothes got too small for Johnny next door, then hey, Scotty got them.
Right.
We changed stuff around like that. That's how, they took care of each other. You talk about a village raising kids. That's
Right.
Yeah. Like I said, a lot of people stayed away from us because, oh, you live in the house. You ain't good up here. You can't do that. And we were about the same thing they were about. We just did it on a different level.
Right. Right. Tell me, because I mean, I've known you for a while now, so I've heard lots of these stories. And for anybody that hasn't heard the stories or know kind of historically Norristown and how it's changed over the years, tell me what it was like in, 1960, 65, going to school and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we had stores in the neighborhood where they know that our families got, our fathers or whoever got paid on the weekends. So during the week, if we needed food or you needed milk or you needed cereal to have something to eat before you went to school, we could go to the corner store, get a box of cereal, a gallon of milk, and sign mommy's name or daddy's name. And on the weekend, they come in when they get paid, they go to the store and they paid off. That's the way, we survived down there.
Right.
Because that was our credit, just like having a credit card. And the stores got to know who we were and what they were. And they looked out for us because we were doing the best that we could do, in the worst of times.
Right. And that's just how community, like you said, looks out for each other. Like, it doesn't even necessarily mean that it was a bad time. It was like that's, I mean, you get paid on the weekend and you're working it throughout the week. Like, that's just, how, like you said, how people look out for each other.
And it was the best times. I can honestly say it was the best times of my life. My kids grew up because, being able to have what they want and not need anything. So they kind of came up as my thing is privilege. But back, 7, 8 years old, I'd go down Main Street, which was the commercial district. And, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'd be shining shoes at the Valley Forge Hotel or in the different bars downtown. to make
Right.
money to help bring home, to help take care of our families. Saturday morning, I'm up at the corner store, which was the Acme or the Grand, and we're carrying people's groceries home, pushing their car. Saturday afternoon, we're scrubbing steps up on DeKalb Street, which was considered the main quarter where the have always had money and could do what they wanted. And we got paid 25, 30 cents, which was a lot of money in those days,
Right.
to do those odd jobs. So I grew up knowing that I see what's going on around me and who had and who didn't. And that put a hunger in me to be able to take care of my own self and to one day know that, hey, I'm going to have this and my kids are not going to have to worry about going from day to day, wait, what's going on and what's going on. So they gave me a hunger to want more, do better as I was growing up.
So for everybody that knows Norristown today, of the school buildings, which school building did you graduate high school from?
Oh, Eisenhower, there
Eisenhower.
on Old Breath Way and Markley Street. Yeah.
And how long was that? When did it change? When did it change? When did they? I guess when they built the high school? No, couldn't have been that.
Yeah, when they built the new high school.
When was that built?
Oh, don't start me lying. Back in the early 90s.
Wow.
Yeah. Early
So
90s.
Eisenhower was the.
I wasn't here then when it was built.
Okay.
I was living City Line Avenue.
Got you. Well, it's just, I grew up in Lansdale and graduated from North Penn High School, which is on, was at Valley Forge Road. But actually, the high school was right there in downtown Lansdale, which is, was it Penfield, Pendale, Pembroke, Pendale.
Pembroke.
Pembroke is over in North Wales. That was North Wales. Penfield is over in Hatfield. And so I think it was Pendale that's in between. So they had 3 middle schools, junior high school kind of. It actually was 2. Pembroke and Penfield were middle schools.
Yeah.
Pendale was the junior high school, which actually was the high school prior to them building the high school in Lansdale, I believe. So it's interesting to see like how the schools just grow and, what used to be the high school becomes, a middle school or elementary school, and they build a new high school that's bigger. And it's just, it's neat to talk to folks who, this used to be my high school, you know what I mean? And now it's a middle school or, for young people.
Well, I initially went to Washington School, which was up at High Street,
Mm-hmm.
and now a vacant lot because the Gallagher brothers now have it as a lot to house all their equipment and stuff. And from Washington School, we went to Rittenhouse, which is now Rittenhouse Nursing Home.
Right.
Yeah. So from there, then went to North High on Josh Osway Way. And so there was Roosevelt School, there was Lincoln School, there was Hancock School, there was Gottwald School, which is now.
Davenport.
So, yeah. So that area, we spread all over the place.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I never heard of Lincoln School. Where is that?
That was up the West End, and they tore that down, and now they made apartments up on the West End, right up the street from where Kia lives.
Okay.
Yeah, those apartments that are on like the side street,
Hmm.
or that are on like the side street. That
Right.
could be. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Now, what school was what's that? Brown and Powell?
Brown.
There, there's I don't know if it was a school. Maybe it might
Oh,
have been
that
a
used
school.
to be that. No, that used to be the Oh shoot,
Doctor's office.
that used to be the Jewish Center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that used to be the Jewish Community Center. It was a church community center.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna ask my question again because you didn't answer it the way I wanted you to answer it. Was tell me about the walk to school.
Oh, the walk to school was fun. You know, as
Getting chased,
youngsters,
getting chased to and from.
yeah, as youngsters, you know, we had a good time walking to school. You played all the way to school and all the way home to school.
Right.
Sometimes, you know, you'd wait and watch the fights that go on, and
They
yeah,
were saying, meet me after school back then.
yeah, it's definitely meet you at the school. I was one of the guys who loved to meet you after school.
Right.
Yeah, you do what you do. But see, back then, if you got caught messing up as youngsters in the grade, you were allowed to get paddled. So,
Mm.
you know, if you messed up going home and Mr. Constable or Miss Antonelli heard about it the next day, they call you down there to the principal's office and ask you what happened, how come it happened, and how many whacks do you think you should receive. And your parents were fine with it. I mean, there was no problem. Today, that would be a catastrophe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but you know, those were the things that happened. And as we got older, like junior high school and whatnot, the walk to school was always breakfast. You know,
Mm.
yeah, we'd walk to the stores we passed in the morning because see, back then we had a bread man who brought bread to your house. They dropped.
Hmm.
You had a milkman who brought milk, orange juice, and whatnot, and dropped it off and left it out in front of your house early in the morning.
Right.
We go up to the houses that had orange juice and chocolate milk and donuts, whatnot, and that was our way to school. So got fed on the way to school.
I did not think you was going to go there.
Yeah.
All
It,
right, so y'all had milk and orange juice and bread for breakfast on the way to school.
oh yeah. Yeah, but a lot of times, a lot of them uppity folks, you know, they had Danish and donuts and whatnot, you know,
They
left on.
delivered them too?
Oh yeah, they delivered that stuff. The stool. So, yeah, just helped herself.
That's crazy. Um, so you grew up on the East End. You mentioned the West End. What was the West End like back then?
Well, the West End was completely different because that was predominantly a white area, and we didn't mess around much up that area, especially down on Markley Street. But the
Uh-huh.
that lived on Powell Street and Cherry Street, they had to walk to those Gottwall school. They went to Gottwalls, they went to Roosevelt, and even some of them went as far up as Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Junior high camp, they went to was turned into Boxing Middle School, but we
Oh,
all at the high school. There's Stewart, which it was named Stewart back then, but now it's Bloxon. We all met together up at ADI's in our high school.
got you. So let's fast forward a little bit. How many brothers? I know you got one. Well, I ain't gonna. You tell me how many brothers and sisters you got.
I had two brothers and one sister. My younger brother, he passed away, but it's now my brother, Dr. Raymond Jennifer, my sister, Mrs. Ethel Scott Matthews, and myself.
Right, right, right. And I hear I've heard stories about your brother Marvin, and I wish I would have had an opportunity to meet him. He sounds like somebody that I would have liked to hang out with a lot.
Oh yeah, he was a fun guy. Yeah, he was a fun guy. His place, he loved New York, and he wound up being a therapist for the 76ers and the Flyers. And any chance he got on travel or whatever in New York, he used to come get us all the time and take us up to New York. That's how I got in 54, was because my brother had carte blanche. And he take I there because my brother Ray, he was a professional student. He was in he was in college most of his life. That's why he got
Ethel
that.
went to Studio 54.
Yeah.
Ethel went to 54.
Oh yeah, yeah. My brother, yeah, he had
Oh, shit.
open. Yeah, yeah. Him and Ethel were tight as Dick's hat band. Yeah, they were always together. Yeah, when working. She wound up teaching at middle school for 35 years.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right.
But
Oh,
yeah, we were a very close knit family because
right.
my mother most of our life, my father left when I was 7, and so my mother took care of us practically by herself. Well, with the help of my grandpa and my grandma, who were
Right.
always lend support. But she took care of. So a lot of times we moved from place to place. I mean, I think I went to every grade school in Norristown
Right.
from the not of where we lived at any certain time. Yeah.
So you talked about a hunger um, to, get things for yourself, to take care of you and your family, because there wasn't a lot of money in the holler. And I mean, but I don't think y'all really realized that y'all were poor or that you didn't have a lot of money because you guys took care of each other.
Well,
You know,
see, when we were younger, we knew we were poor because everybody let us know we were poor. We were the
Oh,
poor kids. We were this. We were that. All the kind of names and stuff that they could call you and try and make you feel low and not. You live in a holler. You
mhm.
that. So you kind of got a grasp of what it was, but you never let that be who you were. You
Right,
poor, but our clothes was clean, and we fed, and weren't in the rain. So
right.
we took that with a grain of salt, and I think that resolve is what helped us as we got older.
Right, because all of you are professional people at the pinnacle of your careers. And I mean, Ethel, a longtime teacher. Your brother, Dr. Jennifer, has his PhD and things like that. Your brother Marvin was, a therapist for, major sports teams. And you yourself, a prominent, successful businessman.
Yeah, I
You know,
know.
that work ethic came from somewhere, or came out, it was born out of something in all
Hey,
of you.
need more, need more, we need to do
Right.
more. Yeah, and and the one thing about us was that we didn't spend all our money. We brought our money. We had jobs. I worked for Bell Telephone and Philadelphia Electric for 16 years. I brought my check home to my mother.
Mm-hmm.
I was a grown man, and
Right.
check home to my mother. Okay, and my brother and sisters, they put their money together and whatever one needed, we made sure they had it. So that was the same premise I used with my kids. But we never wanted anything after we were old enough to know what it was to hold a job and to
Right.
do what needed to be done in the family. Yeah.
That is a concept that's lost on the these generations. I could say that I believe my father and mother, when they were married, that was kind of the thing. Like my dad brought the check home and they paid the bills and they did what they, you know what I mean? It's like, but now it's like, okay, this is mine. Or with, relationships and, you know what I mean? If a family's struggling and say there is the, maybe it's a teenager that's going out to work because he's, working at McDonald's to, because he wants a job because there's no money in the house, but he's also not contributing that money to the household.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that concept, and not because young people of today are selfish, I think also too is that, parents today have other issues that prohibit them from taking care of their families or their children like they could. You know what I mean? And so, it's not completely lost on the young people, but I think, when you start thinking about making sure that everybody's good, you know what I mean? Not just me and I'm hoarding all my stuff, but I'm making sure that the people I love and care about are good too, And so yeah, so the success doesn't end with you. Actually, didn't start with you. You have how many aunts and uncles and extended family?
Too many. Too many.
Well, I
My,
can count one that
uh, my
is out to me.
grandmother had 3 girls and 3 boys. No, four now. I forgot my aunt died before when I was a baby. Um,
Okay.
had 4 girls and 2 boys. My grandfather. My grandfather was a plasterer. He also played the piano and tap dance and all the bars and stuff around here. And
Okay.
yeah, and he was known as Mr. Blue Jimmy. And you ask anybody about Mr. Blue Jimmy, and they'll give you a story because he always had one. But he also, put the work ethic in us. I mean, when we were younger, carrying them buckets of cement or mixing cement or whatever, he taught us how to drive. Shucks, I was 12 years old driving. He taught me to drive, I mean, and those different things back then. My Uncle Clarence, he was also a plasterer, and he was one of the guys that with Mr. Randolph, Mr. Colbreath, Mr. Blockton, and those guys, were the guys coming up because they were the guys, the sports legends of Norristown. But they also taught us that you don't look past the next person. If you got
Right.
to do something for somebody, hey, you do it. So, my grandma, she was a stay-at-home mother. So a lot of times the women who did what they call days work, who went out to the main line and cleaned these people's houses and whatnot, a lot of times the kids would come home with us from school, and my mom would watch the kids, give them, till the women got home. Yeah,
Right.
my mother started having kids at 14 years old. So she went to school and she worked. So my grandma pretty much, raised us for about 4 or 5 years while all the things were going on.
Right.
But we always had a close knit family, and we were always well taken care of. Always taken care of. And as things got better, as the town grew and more opportunities opened up, things got much better for us. You
Right.
know, instead of wearing somebody else's clothes, we got a chance to wear new clothes.
Right.
But, you have to realize back then, they call the Jim Crow area, things weren't like that in Norristown.
Right.
We were pretty much get along town. We got along pretty much with everybody. I mean, the whites played with us, we played with them. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
sports and whatnot, we were together. So there was not a whole lot of little problems. I mean, not saying that there wasn't little things here or there. People didn't want you
Right. Good one. Yeah, you get that one.
right.
Right.
But
So
on the whole, yeah, we were pretty much a united town. Yeah.
so Blue Jimmy, is he the one with the musical talent? Is that where the musical talent flows?
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, he passed that down to my uncle Jimmy, who wound up being a world-renowned jazz organ. Yeah, he
There
that,
he is. And
yeah,
boy, does he not resemble some folks in your family. I'm like, wait a minute.
yeah, uh-huh. And the funny thing is that he went all over the world, but Norristown was home.
Right, right.
Yeah, Norristown.
Tell us about Uncle Jimmy, because I
Oh,
mean, you got stories for days, but I don't know. Pick one. Pick your favorite one, and what other celebrity does it involve?
hey, my favorite one was when I was about 14 years old, and I came home from school. I was at Rittenhouse at the time, and my grandmother said that she was going to kill my grandpa. He he wasn't allowed to have beer in the house, and she caught some beer in the house.
Oh,
And when we were going to school, she said, "I'm gonna kill your grandpa." He brought that doggone beer in here, and I told him I didn't want that beer in this house. She was a start Seventh-day Adventist.
uh-huh.
So we're coming home from school, and there's a hearse parked in front of our house. And we didn't want to go in the house because we
Right,
thought my grandma had killed my grandpa. Now, I mean, we're 13 or 14. We're supposed to know better than that, right?
right.
And
I, I
come to
probably
find
would have thought
out,
the
we
same
open the
thing.
door, and go in the house, and my Uncle Jimmy was in there. And he said, "You know what happened to your grandpa today?" And we said, "No, what?" He said, "Well, your grandma told me he had to leave if he ever brought beer in this house again." And I said, "Well, what's the hearse outside?" He said, "Oh, that's the way I take my organ around now." He said, "I drive a hearse now to take my organ around." So we had thought that my grandma had did something to my grandpa, and here this man drives a hearse to take his organ from place to place.
That is hilarious. Yeah, I probably would have thought that yeah, somebody there was going to be a body.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but
So go ahead.
but my grandfather, my grandfather was uh, a jokester, and he loved to entertain. He loved the tap dance. He loved the piano. Anybody in Norristown that had a piano, he'd be there at their house playing the piano.
Okay.
Yeah, anybody. I mean, even the white folks. He go to their house, and my good friend Bungie, his
Mm-hmm.
mother and father, Paige Stevens, they had a piano at their house, and my grandfather was a member of the Elks Home, which was a club uh, up on Green Street. And
Mm-hmm.
they closed the Elks Home at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, And my grandfather would go down Missy Lane's and Wade's house, and he'd be down there playing the piano till sunup. They drink beer, have a good time, and he played the piano.
Right.
Yeah.
That sounds like good times.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was
Really.
back then. Back then we had good. There wasn't a lot of stuff that goes on now. And people say, man, that's old school and that's this and that, but it was good school. Because
Right.
it seemed, Norristown was Norristown. Things have changed over the years because people from a lot of places came into North, and they didn't get the memo about how we deal with each other.
Right.
So things began to change, and they didn't all change for the good, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So your Uncle Jimmy took up the organ. Nope, none of y'all took up tap dancing. I don't think I ever seen you tap dance.
Nobody took up that. I had my aunts, they were singing, Uncle Clarence, like I said, they were proficient in sports, and Uncle Clarence, he wound up being a brick mason, plaster, carpenter. He could do it all. My grandfather showed them he could do it
Right.
all. Yeah.
Right. That's
And
what's up.
I picked that from them because I had to work with them. Come on, you ain't standing around. So,
Right. Right.
and I picked those things up.
So back to your Uncle Jimmy, because you're being quite modest about his talent. And when people think of an organ, they're like, what, how, who's listening to an organ? What kind of music are you listening to when you're talking about an organ? And again, who travels? It ain't a guitar. It ain't like you put it over your shoulder. What I mean? He's driving his organ around in a hearse to go perform. Right.
Yeah,
So
he got big enough. People always had an organ. Different jazz clubs always had an organ because he's, like I said, he started other countries. He was all over the world. He was the #1 jazz artist in the world on Playboy, on jazz format for 15 years in a row. 15 years in a row.
Wow.
Yeah. So, back then they weren't stealing each other like they
Right.
do. People take a snippet of your music, they do this, they do that. Even today, about 5 years ago, Drake took some of my Uncle Jimmy's music in the background, a couple of his songs, and we had to go after him for payment because, come to find out, those songs were major hits, and he made a lot of money from them.
Right.
So my mother was in charge of his estate, so we wound up getting a pretty good sum from the lawsuit from him. Jimmy's music, music has been sampled quite a few times.
Right.
You say jazz organ, but his music was his music. All his music was cataloged, and he owned the masters.
Right.
That was one thing that Ray Charles had taught him. You own your music. And
Right.
music, which was jazz, was, let's say, made up as you went along, and you tried different things to add drum, you add a guitar, you add a bass, so on and so forth. So that was yeah.
You mentioned Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder came to Norristown.
Yeah, well, Uncle Jimmy fell in love with Stevie Wonder, and a lot of times, yeah, he would bring him, he would bring him home with him, and he got to be friends, with it was nothing at his house to have Nancy Wilson, different Ella Fitzgerald was at his house.
Mhm.
And uh, George Benson, Wes Montgomery. That was nothing to be at his house. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, so y'all don't know, and we can flash Jimmy Smith one more time. Y'all Google this man, look up his music, listen to his music, know that this is an icon from Norristown, from the Hollow, where, young people, think about yourself and your situation today. And I think this is, part of your story. We always talk about trauma to triumph, is that, yeah, you go from, not having a lot of money. I don't like the idea, saying you were poor. So you didn't have a lot of money because you were, and I don't want to sound corny and cliche that you were rich in other things, but it's like, there's some struggle builds character, right? If you know what I mean, you know what people are made of when you squeeze them. You know what I mean? And y'all were getting squeezed, and look at all the talent and the skill and the intelligence that came out of such lack of resources. When people don't have resources, they're resourceful.
Yeah, a humble beginning. Like I said, my mom was a teenage mother, but she made sure that she put 4 people through college. My sisters and my brothers have master's degrees. Like I said, my brother has a doctorate degree. She put us through, then she went back and she got her own degree.
Right.
And it just shows the resilience that at first things didn't work out, but you put things in place for things to work out.
Right.
We had that work ethic. We're all going to be something or somebody.
Right.
I had tax notary business. I owned a car wash. I had an insurance company. I had a mini market down on Art. I did, with a few people who did a few other things. So we were always on our own, taking care of our. At one time we owned 23 houses here in Norristown.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just different things. My grandfather could hardly read or write, but they knew how to do business, and we were always, after we got pretty much of age, all right as far as things going on.
Right. And so you went into your business ventures before I had a chance to set it up, because I want to know, like, Scotty Tags. Where did Scotty Tags come from? Like, where did you get the name Scotty Tags, and
Scotty,
how? And again, you listed at least a dozen businesses and ventures that you were engaged in or participated in, owned or partnership, whatever. You still held down 2 full-time jobs and a part-time job on the weekends. So when we talk about work ethic, people just see Scotty Tags, right?
Yeah.
They don't know that Scotty Tags had borrowed shoes as a kid and he wore hand-me-downs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? All they see is Scotty Tags now with the gold jewelry and the diamonds and the cars and the furs and the women, right? They don't know the humble beginnings from when Scotty Tags had to build from. You built an empire. You weren't handed an empire. You didn't steal an empire. You built an empire.
But that came from the tenacity, and when I said earlier about,
For sure,
I needed more because I had 6 kids, so I was going to make sure that they had no struggle. I was going to make sure that what they needed or what they want was at their disposal. but I also took care of me. I like nice cars. I said I was going to have a nice car when I got old enough. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the custom suits, I like that. I like the jewelry. I like doing what I do. And,
Right.
so I know that in order to have it, you have to put your nose to the grindstone. So, like I said, I worked at Bell Telephone. I worked at Philadelphia Electric. I brought a check home, and weekends I worked at the bar. My godfather, Big Jim, owned every bar in Norristown, and
Right.
I worked at all of them. So, we always had money. So things were always good. I would just
Right.
make sure that my kids didn't go through the struggle that I went through. And sometimes
Right.
I feel that I should have let them go through struggle because they don't have the same work ethic that I do.
Right. You hit the nail on the head because as I'm listening to you talk, and it's like you had the tenacity before you had 6 kids. So it wasn't out of that necessity. It's like you said, you wanted more. You wanted to live your life. There were certain things you wanted to have, and you worked for it. That people want to say and try to question or belittle, how people arrive at their success. And it's like because you worked for it. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, your Uncle Jimmy made money and did all this thing, but you worked for what you had, whatever motivations, right? You wanted nice things, you started having children, you had to take care of your kids. You know what I mean? But you and I both know, and we see it every day, that somebody can have 6 kids and don't got a single job. Don't got job the first, don't got dollar the first. And I'm talking about the man, maybe living with the baby mom or one of his baby moms and, driving her car and using her this and using, you know what I mean? Like what happened? Where's the disconnect where young men, were men and they understood and we're not talking about gold diggers because women were different back then too. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't women just laying around, waiting for a man to take care of them, but everybody had roles and understandings of like what worked.
Right?
And it's like, what's going on today, like doesn't work.
No. And about Scotty Tags, it was I had the tag agency there at Willow Street, and the word got out, Scotty Tag, get your tag. So everybody, a friend of mine start calling me, you Scotty the tag man, Scotty Tags. But at that shop gave me an opportunity to give back. I mean, I helped the Elks Home with the marching club, Mr. Willis, who was a mine. I helped him with the marching club. We sponsored computers for schoolwork at Carver Center. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we started the summer basketball league down the Simmons courts that we sponsored. We just did a lot, and even through my office, we had a Fiore's Market across the street, and I'd have women who come in, they need milk or whatever for kids, they don't have diapers or whatever, and I could send them across the street and make sure that they had those things. Those were
Right.
things that didn't happen, as I was coming up when I seen around me, but it gave me the incentive because of what happened when I lived in the holler. Those things were still in me as I
Mm-hmm.
got a grown man. I never forget how we took care of each other. So any opportunity that I had to give back, I always did.
Right. Right. Well, and that hasn't stopped. I mean, thankfully, you and I met 10 plus years ago in a participatory defense meeting. You know what I mean? I'll let you tell whatever part. Huh?
I still never got that cake.
So, Miss Gloria, Miss Glow, if you're listening, we are owed a chocolate cake. Let's see if we can get it by the end of this year because I'm down for some chocolate cake. So you were bribed with chocolate cake to come to this meeting. as we were doing something revolutionary in the criminal justice world. And that was bringing community into the courtrooms and supporting defendants as they navigate their criminal cases. And so you came to a meeting.
And
You saw.
fell in love with the prospect of being able to give something back as far as the community was concerned. Myself, I had did 8.5 years upstate for a misdeed, and I seen how people were treated. I seen how the system ate people up, and I said, if I ever get a chance, I was going to make sure that I did what needed to be done to help other people who were in that system. Because when I had my problem, there was nobody there to help me. So I said, from here, I could help with the participatory defense. And you and I worked together and got a bail fund, and we bailing people out of jail. We're helping people with their criminal cases. We're making sure they have the right attorneys. We're making sure their attorneys are doing the right things for them as far as their cases are concerned. And we've been doing that, like you said, for, you're saying 10. I know it's been 12. So I feel good about the place that we're in. And I just know that it's the right spot.
Yes. And let me put it in perspective for folks that aren't directly impacted or indirectly impacted by the criminal legal system. It's one thing to take $20 out of your pocket and go buy a mom, diapers for her child, right? It's one thing to take $20 out of your pocket, buy milk, eggs, and bread for an elderly person or somebody that's struggling that doesn't have food. It's one thing to take, $20 out of your pocket and, buy somebody gas. Back then, $20 will fill your tank up, $10 will fill your tank up, right? And, the money. What you have contributed to participatory defense and just what participatory defense means, but it's different in other spaces as far as my personal stories and engagement. But you not only had to overcome your own situation with the criminal legal system, but to also come back. And almost as like, when you have soldiers are running in, or firefighters, and they're running into a burning building, right? They got themselves out. They're like, oh, snap, I done saved myself. Hallelujah. But now you know that there are people still inside that building, and that building is burning. And you are literally running back into burning buildings and getting people out. And that's how serious it is. People say, oh, Heather, you're being dramatic. It's like I'm being dramatic, because that's how serious this system is. You lived it firsthand. And for you to have the courage to continue to go back and save people is, for me, more heroic than giving babies diapers. And I'm not diminishing people that do that. And because that saves lives as well. But this criminal legal system is vicious. It's violent. It's people die. They're the people the monsters that run this system. They don't care. Like, they don't care who you are. They don't care. You said a misstep. Well, you can make the right step and still find yourself in jail. You could do the right thing and find yourself behind bars. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter how big or small or what the transgression was. They throw you behind bars and you sit there until, like you said, attorneys and this and that, till they figure it out and decide to say, all right, I think that sounds plausible, that it might have happened that way. And you then spent 8 months in jail away from your family, losing your housing, losing your children. You know what I mean? All of these things, the trauma, the food is horrible. The conditions are horrible. You know what I mean? Like, that is not a place people want to be on purpose or by mistake. And this system is the wheels continue to turn, and they're oiled by people making mistakes, about the system criminalizing childhood behaviors. The system has criminalized health problems. So people have mental health disorder, or they have a substance abuse disorder. Like, that's a health problem. That is literally a health problem. And people are going to jail because of their health conditions. You know what I mean? And so, you know, I say all that to say, and I know you have been extremely humble. And as most of the guests that come on this show, I don't know what it is. Like, I'll be like, oh, we're going to tell all these stories, and we just going, wow. And I think maybe, because I'm probably the same way too, is that, you know, you're very, very humble about what you have done for the folks on the inside, what you have done for Norristown, what you have done for people that couldn't give a damn, wouldn't give you a thank you, or, you know, never, you know, don't come back. Because we experience that. We post bail for people, and we don't see or hear from them ever again. You know, so sometimes it's thankless. But I wanted to say thank you.
But
And
we keep doing it because we know the need.
Absolutely. But, you know, not everybody feels that way. Not everybody would run back into that burning building. They self-preservation. I made it out. I'm good. You know what I mean? Like them haunted houses. I ain't running back into a haunted house. I made it out. Freddie didn't get me. I'm out. But there are those folks that are still, you know, running back into that burning building. And to everybody that's doing that, I am truly, truly grateful. You guys are not given the accolades and the recognition that you deserve, because the system is so violent. People don't know. If they don't have contact with the criminal legal system, they don't want contact. And they have a very different perspective of what it really means, you know, because it has the word justice in it. You know, people just assume that it's just. What? It's not. It's further from that. You know, and so we are constantly fighting and constantly telling our stories and trying to correct the narrative that this criminal legal system is not just.
Right.
Just because justice is in its name.
And the big thing is, Heather, in our with participatory defense, we're not concerned. Well, we are concerned, but we're not casting any kind of shadow or doubt on you that you can't come to us and get help. We don't say whether you're guilty or whether you're innocent. That's not up to us. That's up to the court system. But regardless of whether you're guilty or not guilty, we're there to help you. We're here to help you navigate the system, because if you don't know that system, it will eat you up, spit you out. And
Absolutely.
I've been there. I know what it is. Heather has researched along with me, and we know what it is. And we're trying to, you know, drop the breadcrumbs that you follow the lead and come through it unscathed.
Right. Yeah. It's rough. So we've had a very deep conversation, and I appreciate that. But there is my favorite segment of the night is the what the fuck moment. And so I don't know if you have a what the fuck moment that, and I know you love the voting stuff, but is there something that has happened maybe through your childhood or your life, or just something that happened that's made you say, what the fuck? Like, why did they give you all this money? Why did they do this? Why did they do that? Like, what would be your what the fuck moment of all what the fuck moments?
My what the fuck moment is how my mother raised 4 kids, come from humble beginnings, and wound up sweet flowers at the end. My mother passed now, but she was alive to see all her kids do well. And she was always thankful. On her deathbed, she said, "I know I'm leaving you well," and that's my. What the fuck can ever be any more special than that?
There we are. I was going to say, what is going on? We stuck. I love that. I love that. And I guess in doing the research for tonight, we opened the show with the statistics of Norristown being 3.5 square miles. That has not changed. I found it incredibly interesting that the population in 1950, the year you were born, was 38,000 some odd thousand people, right? The census of 2024 has the number at 36,000 some odd numbers, which is significantly less than the 1950. But also, too, what the fuck? Like, there are so many more people living in Norristown than I would think 36,000 people. And I say that because obviously there's been an influx of our Latino brothers and sisters that are here. The amount of, and I see this coming through the zoning hearing board, is that they're still chopping up single family homes into duplexes and triplexes and quadruplex, if that, however you say that, quadruplexes. So there obviously is the need and more people living here in Norristown. They just built, what you call it, over at Kennedy Kendrick. Sarah Peck is building housing over there. I don't recall the number, but 200 units, and that's being conservative.
Right.
200 units.
200
So, yeah,
Hey,
that's an additional 400 or 500 people. What you say?
They're building another 100.
Right. So it's like, all right. And then, what's come online on Sandy Hill. There's just been so much development that it just makes me think, what the fuck, that, it's not, it hasn't increased. And the reason why that I say that is because, if anybody was paying attention to the, what's been going on in politics with gerrymandering and redistricting and all that, like, the population determines, the congressional seats, funding sources, school board, school funding, all of those things are based off of the number of people that live in your town. And so it's like, why are we being undercounted? So that's my WTF moment. And we will, we'll explore that because it absolutely has to do with voting, one of your favorite topics. And so, is there anything else you want to share for posterity? Because this is recorded. This is going down in the history of purely speculation.
It was going in the history books. I'd like to thank all of Norristown who have always embraced me. You have your haters, but mostly people in Norristown know Scotty Tags. They know me. They know my kids. People are very receptive and respectable. And I just like to thank everybody and I love you. And Norristown has been and will always be my town. God bless you all.
Amen to that. And just last night, you didn't know how far your reach went. You met some folks that were not from here and were visiting our event last night, and They knew who you were. They're like, wait a minute, you that?
Yeah, they were in Philadelphia and Jersey. They said they heard of Scotty Tags.
Yep. So yes, so all of that, and thank you for your wisdom and just making yourself available to this work and the folks that need you. And with that being said, definitely want to shout out Exorist. I mean, another historian. Okay. She is just, an educator, but also a Norristown native whose family has deep ties and long ties here in the community. And I'm just thankful for her and her wisdom and what she has come to share. And, with her father and him coming to Norristown and, just the historical context there. And, but also too, for us to be able to keep doing this work, to keep doing this podcast, to keep running in the burning building, to keep being able to pour water on the folks that's coming out of these burning buildings so they can function when they get out. You know what I mean? We need support. We need folks that are standing up for us as an organization. I say this a lot, that we're in hostile territory. Montgomery County does not like what we do. Montgomery County does not like that we're running into this building and saving people, because it's snatching money out of the pockets of those people that benefit from the carceral system. They don't like that. They don't like that we're exposing them for sending people to jail for health conditions. You know what I mean? They don't like the fact that we're exposing them for, assigning $77 cash bail to people who've had detainers, and the detainer gets lifted, but they can't get out or move on to the next thing because they don't got $77. You know what I mean? They don't want us saying any of this stuff. They don't want us making sure that our kids have what they need so that they don't have ties. We're snatching our kids out of the school to prison pipeline. They don't want us doing that because it hits their pockets. And so for us to be able to continue to do that, we need independent funding so that we can stay independent and say whatever the fuck we want to say, because we're not worried about somebody snatching our funding because they don't like what we say, or they don't like that we called an elected official out, or we called this person out or that person out for their wrongdoing, for their own nepotism, for them lining their own friends' pockets and stealing from Norristown. They don't like us saying that. So now they're going to try and, block our funding so that we have to, censor our speech. You know what I mean? When I tell a lie, please somebody call me on it, because I try to be, do my research and due diligence and dig as far as I can get to make sure that I'm speaking facts and not my own opinions. And if it is my opinion, I'm going to tell you. So I say all that to say, and being long-winded, is to like, follow, and share this content, our social media, our events, just to know that, there are, to show like you said, the haters and the people that don't want us doing this work, that there are more people that benefit from this work. And they look like us and they appreciate us. They're in community with us. And, we're just going to show them that we're not here alone. We're not alone sharing this message or fighting this fight, and that there is community and folks that are here. And the easiest way to do it is like, follow, and share. If you want to send us some money, you want to send us a couple dollars, we gladly accept that. If you want to be a guest on the podcast, please hit us up. Whatever the story is, we'll work it out into season 4. And so, wow. This is the last episode. This is the last episode. I didn't prepare anything for it to be like, this is the last episode. Like, we're not going away. We're just gonna,
we're still going to be here doing the work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We just have to figure out how we're gonna present season 4, because we, doing bigger and better things, and we want you all to have as much information, relevant and accurate information as possible. And so with that, I'll say good night. And this is our last guest episode. We do have in 2 weeks our court watching episode. That will be the actual final episode of the season. But this is our last guest episode, and couldn't have been a better guest than none other, Scotty Tags. So I say, I love you. Peace and good night.
Good night.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Purely Speculation. If you learned something, share something. Please like, follow, and share this show. The more our communities know, the more they are empowered, and the faster we can create change. Purely Speculation would not be made possible without the generous support of the Community Justice Exchange, the Health Sparks Frank E. Boston Black Justice Fund, Philadelphia Foundation, and Reform Alliance. Thank you. Booyah!
Intuition different, already lived and dreamt it. Visions make my vision clear as I'm jogging through this fog of life. Fog eyes with the fog set, body and I'm all set. Baby, can you be my Cardi B on an offset? Toast we got it, self we build it.